Episode number 7. Find your inner pirate. Let's go. Make it a memorable one. Get fired up. Get fired up. Another car podcast on my way to Dallas. Just leaving the house. Recording this 6:46 a.m. And man, I feel bad about missing the Porter's podcast. Sunday night, Monday had some mic issues. And also, I'm just trying to get acclimated to this new life I have. This long commute. It's about over an hour both ways. And you got gym time, you got family time, you got Rangers on. I gotta find a better way to manage my time with the podcast. We're getting all the notes. We're getting I'm doing all the preparation for the podcast, but then I get at night and it's just like, man, I don't have the energy to record for an hour and a half tonight. So I think for the time being, at least preview season 2 is just generally exhausting, just because it's, when the season starts, it won't be as much prep work for me on the podcast. It'll mainly just be coming in and just bullshitting around, talking about all the games, all the storylines. Well, right now, a preview season, it's a lot of note taking, trying to get, especially these college football teams. I just don't remember a whole lot. We'll get into the Big Ten West today, finish out the Big Ten preview. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. I want to do 3 podcasts a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But it's also like, hey, I'm trying to do social media, TikTok stuff, and that takes up a lot of my time too. So we're still trying to dial in how we want to do it. I really think in season, I want to have Porter on Sunday night, talk about all the action. So that would be good for a Monday podcast, but we're going to have to stay up really late Sunday night. So I wouldn't even mind me and Porter going live during like a Monday night, during Monday Night Football, and we can talk about the game live and talk about all the action from Sunday. So that's a thought. And I want to have a consistent release schedule for you guys because I feel bad. I missed Friday's episode, and then I did the Post Malone album review, started the Big Ten last episode, and that was kind of a makeup for that. And then we didn't have anything Monday. Porter and I were going to record. We had Twitter Spaces all ready to go. My mic wasn't working. I was just tired as shit, and we just couldn't make it happen. But don't worry, I'm going to get back to Finding My Inner Pirate, and we're going to get a consistent schedule down for this podcast. But I had to bang one out today on the way to work. Could not let it slip. Could not let another day go by without recording because MLB trade deadline was yesterday, and a shit ton of moves were made. I can't wait to break it down. I think one of the things you see in all the sports right now, not just baseball, the new generation of general managers, they're deal bankers, man. And it's a lot of the younger generations kind of getting in charge now, and these teams are willing to hear other people out and see if they can come up with all kinds of creative, fun trades to help their ball club. And I think you see that more and more in sport. A lot of moves are made. A lot of guys are heading back to some familiar places as well. You got some teams out there that they know what they're getting. They've had guys in their organization before, and we'll get to it. There's a couple of them where they say, hey, you know what? We're familiar with this guy. Let's bring him back if they think we can win with him. So you got that. I think the biggest storyline of this trade season, though, we got to start with the Mets. You got Verlander. That was the big trade of the day yesterday. Justin Verlander, who they signed this offseason. really kind of as their Jacob DeGrom replacement. They thought, hey, we'll have him, we'll have Scherzer, and there's no reason to expect them not to be as good as they were last year. Well, they've been one of the major disappointments, if not the biggest disappointment in all of baseball this year. I talked about the Padres the other day when the Rangers were fixing to start their series out there. They've been a major disappointment as well. But I think you got to say it's the Mets, man. And Frank the Tank was right. Frank the Tank was right. Never did buy in on this team. And man, if you would have told their fans they had to trade Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander at the deadline, they would be shocked. Their win total I think was like 90 something games. And yeah, you got to feel for the Mets. But as I was saying, they traded Max Scherzer to my favorite team, the Texas Rangers. Oh my gosh, I can't believe Max Scherzer is a Texas Ranger. When I saw that come across, jumped out of my seat, did a little fist pump. I mean, the fact that I get to watch Max Scherzer, who we knew the Rangers needed another starting pitcher and probably another good one for their playoff rotation, because you got Uvalde, John Gray, Dane Dunning was a great story, but are you going to trust him in a playoff start to be your number 3? Perez and Heaney have been just very mediocre all year. So you needed another starter with Jacob DeGrom out, and we get another Met. We took DeGrom from him, now we took Max Scherzer. And we did have to give up really good infield prospect, Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald Acuna's brother, little infielder, second base, shortstop type, and he's going to be missed. He's going to be a big leaguer someday, and the Mets fans should be happy that they got him. They did get a decent return, and that's really what the Mets are focused on once they saw the writing on the wall. So you do have to give them respect. You know, there's a lot of teams. We'll get to the Angels. There's a lot of teams out there that are out of the playoff race, and they don't want to admit it, and they don't want to trade guys. Well, at least the Mets were smart enough to say, hey, look, we got to get off some of these valuable contracts, older pitchers. They even traded Mark Canha. We'll get to that. Outfielder Mark Canha was moved to the Brew Crew, I believe. So the Mets got after it. Trade season, they got some good prospects. And you still have a really good team there, a really good core. It's just not meant to be for them this year. My Rangers, man, they've been having a magical season. I've been talking about it, but they've been scuffling of late. They got swept in San Diego. They did win last night, so that was good. But the division lead is basically nothing anymore. Houston's right there, like a half game behind. And they went out, and this Verlander trade, getting him back in on the Astros, that's a huge deal for them. Huge deal. To be able to go out, bring in a familiar face, like I was saying. All these teams are out there, and they like that familiarity. And the Astros, I mean, he comes in, was their ace for years, wins the World Series with them last year. Did he win World Series MVP? No, Pena did, I believe. Or it might have been Verlander, because he was dominant in the World Series from what I remember. And so, yeah, Rangers, Houston, that's maybe the best division race to watch down the stretch. And it's awesome. That's what all you can ask for as a baseball fan. Is your team's in it this time of year, and all these games are so important now rest of the season after the trade deadline. So we'll see how that shakes out. The Rangers also went out and acquired Jordan, the Bear, Montgomery. left-handed pitching, or starting pitcher from the Cardinals. Really like that move. Like I was saying about Perez and Heaney, I don't know if they're reliable. Now you got four reliable pitchers for a postseason rotation with Scherzer, with Evaldi, John Gray, Jordan Montgomery. You love to see that. They also pick up relief pitcher Chris Stratton in this deal, and I think he's a guy that can be perfect for this bullpen. The Rangers' bullpen has been the weakness of the team all year. Well, now they bring in a guy that can go a couple innings. He's a multi-inning reliever, from what I remember, and I think he can come in and do some really good things and pitch a couple innings here and there and really take a load off some of those relievers. So, really big fan of what Chris Young did to the Rangers. Went out. He's aggressive, man. He is. That's what I love about him. He's aggressive. They even traded for catcher Austin Hedges, who is a veteran backstop, really good defensive catcher. We've got Jonah Heim. He's out right now with injury, which really sucks. So CY went out and patched up our catcher position a little bit like that. The Cardinals, speaking of the Cardinals, them and the Blue Jays hooked up for two different trades. Really interesting. You got flamethrower Jordan Hicks. He's going off to the Blue Jays. So it was like 102. If he can control it, man, nobody in baseball can touch this guy with his filth. Might have been the best reliever to move yesterday. I think I was really trying to see I was trying to see David Bednar of the Pirates get dealt, but as I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the pod, I just don't know if the Pirates are ready to move the hometown kid. And it looks like David Bednar is going to be a Pirate for the time being, but the Blue Jays, they're in the thick of it in the AL East. They're probably not going to win that division. They're looking at a playoff spot or a wild card spot. Really like this move for them, going to get him. And then they also, in a separate deal, traded for Paul DeJong from the Cardinals. And he's a shortstop, but he can bounce around a little bit, I'm sure, play a little utility role, play second base for them. And so I like that move a lot for the Blue Jays. Wasn't a mega trade or anything, but I think that shores up some of their holes, if you will. The Dodgers Guardians hooked up on an interesting trade. Noah Syndergaard for Ahmed Rosario, which I think was a pretty good trade for the Dodgers. I mean, I don't know what their infield situation's like. I know they had Chris Taylor and who else did they have? They had another shortstop. But I guess, yeah, that's kind of their weakness of their team is shortstop. They get Ahmed Rosario, who was once a very heralded prospect in the Mets. You get him, and, Noah Syndergaard. I don't know what the Guardians see in him. They are a team that's really good with pitching, so maybe they think they can get him in there and fix him. But I don't know. Noah Syndergaard's been pretty bad this year. I think there was even an article a few months ago. He was really kind of down bad and didn't have the yips, but they were saying some things like it just made it seem like Noah Syndergaard is on his way out of baseball pretty soon. So I don't know. He might have turned it on lately, and I just didn't realize it. But that's an interesting trade. Dodgers, they also went out and traded for Lance Lynn and Nails reliever Joe Kelly from the White Sox. And I love me some Joe Kelly. He's been through it. He's been through the wars of postseason baseball. He's a bulldog out there, and so is Lance Lynn. You know, Lance Lynn is the guy that's going to come out there and attack the zone. He's going to put his nuts on the table when he's out there on the mound. And I think the Dodgers need that. They need a couple bulldogs. And I really that might be my favorite trade outside of the headliners, Scherzer and Verlander. That might be my favorite trade for a playoff team. Go in to get those two guys because I just know both those guys are going to show up in the bright lights of postseason play. And I just don't see how that trade doesn't work out for them. They address their pitching needs. And the prospects that go back, there's a couple good ones. And the Dodgers even had to trade Trey Thompson, Klay Thompson's little brother. He's had some moments for the Dodgers, but I guess he was drafted by the White Sox. So that's just another theme of this trade deadline. Guys going out trading for a familiar name. And I think the White Sox probably think Trey Thompson can come in there and be a big leaguer, maybe be their center fielder for the rest of the season. I know they have Luis Robert, some other guys in there, but I really like that move. The White Sox, they were in fire sale mode. They dealt relief pitcher Kendall Graveman to the Astros. Dylan Cease was a big name that they kind of floated out there that was rumored to maybe be dealt. Maybe it's a year too soon for him. If the White Sox are struggling again next year, I bet you could see that move. But they ended up sticking on to Dylan Cease. Him and his awesome mustache aren't going anywhere. So at least, White Sox David Barstool, he won't have a complete meltdown. I wonder what his thoughts were on trading Dylan Cease this year. But anyways, we got to talk about the Angels. I talked a lot about Shohei on a podcast last week. It looked like they really needed to trade the guy. They're 4 games out of a wild card spot when I looked last night. And it's just like, are you just going to keep trying to convince yourself that you're in it? That's what the Angels have been doing ever since they had Mike Trout. Now they're doing it even more so of Shohei because they do not want to lose those guys. Those two guys are what's keeping fans coming to their games and watching them on TV, and they cannot lose them. So I get why they didn't want to trade them, but it's just like, man, if you keep living for just today, then you're never going to have any kind of future. That applies to life. That applies to baseball. And the Angels have been living for today too much. And they go out, and I think they made a mistake not putting Shohei on the market. You're 4 games out. You're 4 games out of a wild card spot with 2 of the better AL teams, the Astros and Rangers, ahead of you. I mean, you go out Sunday night, you trade for C.J. Cron, who also played for the Angels at a stretch. Was pretty good, and you get lefty masher Randall Grichuk from the Rockies, and I like that trade. I think he can come in and be a nice little compliment to the lineup, but I think it's reckless. I think it's reckless to move these quality prospects in their current situation. You trade for Lucas Giolito from the White Sox, one of the better starters to move teams. I just think the Angels have got to do a lot of self-reflection that they haven't done since they've had Mike Trout, and it's okay. I was kind of mad because I do think the Rangers had one of the best prospect packages they could offer. And I do think the Rangers had a chance of getting Shohei if they really did put him on the market. It just didn't happen. And I'm not butthurt about it, though, because, the Angels want to keep running their franchise into the ground. That's just fine with me, with them being in the Rangers division. Yeah. sticking in the West, the Mariners, they shipped Paul Sewald, really good closer for them, for the D-backs. And the D-backs are kind of in it too. They're about, they're not that dissimilar to where the Angels are, but they made moves around the edges. They didn't go out and trade recklessly like the Angels did. They went out and they got really good reliever Paul Sewald, shore up their bullpen. They sent back Josh Rojas, Dominic Corzone, who are both big leaguers, and minor leaguer Ryan Bliss. So, kind of like what the Mariners did in this trade. Get some big league. I like Josh Rojas, at least as a utility guy. And you get a prospect back. Ryan Bliss just sounds like a dude. So, I kind of like that trade for the Mariners' perspective. The Rays, we all know how dominant the Rays were to begin this year. And they're still really damn good. But they did need to go out and add some juice to their roster. They went out and acquired Aaron Savale from the Guardians. Sorry, traffic's being a little nuts right now. I thought the Guardians could have really moved on from Shane Bieber this trade season. We'll see if that's an off-season move. I didn't realize Savale has a 2.34 ERA. You know, he was a free agent in our fantasy baseball league for a while. I'm sure he's been picked up long by now. But that's interesting. The Rays, you know, they're kind of like the Guardians I was talking about. They're just great with pitchers. So if they see something in Aaron Savale, who's having a nice year, definitely think he can come in there and be a really good mid-rotation guy for them. You got Shane McClanahan, Zach Eflin, Savale. You got these guys, and I think the Rays definitely need another starting pitcher. They had to send Taj Bradley down. Really good rookie, really good looking rookie starting pitcher, but you know he's been up and down this year. And I think it's a good move for them. I really like that move. The Brew Crew. We talked about the Brewers a little bit. They went out and added Mark Canha from the Mets. They got one of the best lefties on the market too, the D-backs who we were just talking about. They picked up Andrew Chafin. Really like him. I think he's maybe the best lefty reliever on the market. You know, maybe Chapman. The Rangers did get Chapman a while ago. So that's an interesting move for the Brew Crew. You know, staying in the Central, the Cubs, they picked up Heimer Candelario. The Cubs are 5 back in the Central last I checked yesterday. That was before last night's action. They have the best run differential at plus 56. That's the best in that NL Central by far. So, and I do want to say Candelario was a Cubs prospect at one point. So, interesting to see him come back to Wrigley. And I like that move, man. I like that the Cubs are going for it. I thought they had a really good lineup, sneaky good lineup coming into the year. And their pitching held up all right. And so I know everybody loves the Reds. I do too. They're one of the best stories of the year so far. But don't be surprised if the Cubs win that division. One sec. You got the Giants. Giants go out and add a really sneaky bat in A.J. Pollock. He can really come and just crush lefties, man. I like that move. And I think Gabe Kapler is the kind of manager that can mix and match. If you give him pieces, I think Gabe Kapler can really do some good things with A.J. Pollock in that lineup. And talked about the Padres a little bit, with the Rangers playing them last weekend, how big of a disappointment they've been. Well, AJ Preller might be the most aggressive GM in baseball, and he was a Rangers front office member for a long time, so I'm very familiar with AJ Preller, and he's went out and made some aggressive moves in San Diego since he's run things, and they also bring back like some former Rangers a lot of the time, Nelson Cruz, Odor, all kinds of guys. So they are kind of Rangers West to a degree, especially now with the Rangers being as aggressive as they've been with player acquisition. And the Padres have been very disappointing, but AJ Preller cannot help himself. He has to go out and buy. He never sells. He went out and traded for old man Rich Hill and G-Man Choi from the Pirates. I mean, they sent back a decent little prospect, too, I was reading about. This guy, he's 6'7", lefty, Jackson Wolf. I mean, he just sounds like a stud. He's going to go back to the Pirates, that G-Man Choi trade. And I don't know, man. I think the Padres just a little bit like the Angels, man, a little reckless with what they're doing. But we'll see how it pans out. The Braves, best record in baseball, the Atlanta Braves, and probably the clear-cut favorite to win the World Series at this point. They went out, shored up the pen a little bit, picking up veteran lefty Brad Hand. I like that guy that's seen it all, Brad Hand. The Marlins also made some trades. We'll wrap it up here. But the Marlins have been one of the surprise teams in the league, too, and they're really trying to make a wild card spot in that NL East with the Braves. They don't have much of a chance in the division, but, I mean, they're going to win close to 90 games, over 80 games. I bet they were one of my favorite season win totals over. I went over 76.5 wins, I believe, with them. So them and the Rangers win totals are definitely coming through for me. And I called both of them being surprise teams. But they went out, traded for veteran first baseman Josh Bell. Really like that trade. And they went out and got the veteran David Robertson, relief pitcher, just to add some depth to their bullpen. Really like that move. So, very interesting trade deadline. Theme of it was familiar faces going to familiar places. And I think you see some teams, I think the Angels are the most head-scratching to me, man. I know it's Shohei Ohtani, and it's hard to trade a guy like that, but I really think there's just big pressure on them to win now. And I don't think that's good on the psyche of the ball club, to put that pressure on them. I like that he went out, he makes the moves around the edges, but they just made way too many gambles, getting Giolito, giving up all these prospects. And the Angels just haven't had a good prospect or a good farm system in the longest time, so very confusing to me. I do think the Rangers and Astros is the big storyline. I'm not trying to sound like a homer here, but they both went out, added Verlander and Scherzer. The Rangers went out, added Montgomery. I mean, the Astros added Kendall Graveman. This is the storyline to me. This is my closing thought. The AL West, man. Houston, the Rangers, Dallas versus Houston area. It's a big rival. And if you don't live in Texas, a lot of people don't understand. But, like, man, people in Houston, people in Dallas don't like each other. I mean, it's a big rivalry. It's been pretty one-sided with the Astros' favor over the years. But that division race is something all baseball fans should be paying attention to here. And I hope my Rangers can hang on. Um, it'll be interesting. Let's shift gears now. Let's finish. Let's finish out the Big Ten preview. Let's move on to the Big Ten West. Let's take a sip of water. Getting down here. Let's see. We're approaching the Dallas area on my drive. Got about 30 minutes away. Let's see if we can do this Big Ten West preview. I talked about the weakness of this division when I was doing the Big Ten East. And it's just mind-boggling. The Big Ten West has gone winless in the Big Ten Championship. 0-9 since they made these new divisions. And it is going to be the last year of the Big Ten West, Big Ten East, when UCLA and USC join. No longer will they be doing divisions. It'll just be a 16-team conference, I believe, or a 14-team conference. No division. It'll just be the best conference records playing each other in the Big Ten title. That's how it should be. But anyways, the Big Ten West, man, I think it's part of the reason why I think the Big Ten's overrated. It's usually up to Wisconsin to pose any real threat. And is this the year the division will exist? We'll have, is this 10th year's a charm maybe? Maybe the last year, maybe the Big Ten West will go out on top and win that Big Ten title game, that elusive Big Ten title game. I don't know, man. Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State are all just a class above everybody in this division. But I do think it's on Wisconsin to show out for this division. And Wisconsin, one of the most interesting storylines coming in, you hire Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. He comes over, had a ton of success at Cincinnati, played his college ball at Ohio State, so he's familiar with the Big Ten. Just brings a much-needed jolt of energy to a good program. But they've been stale for a while, and I think mainly offensively, Luke Fickell has got to bring some life to this offense. He brings in offensive coordinator Phil Longo. He comes over from North Carolina, and I'm a big fan of his air raid offense. He's a dogged recruiter, man. I mean, you cannot be. You get Sam Howell, you get Drake May over the years. He knows what he knows what he wants in a quarterback, and he's a great recruiter. And that's going to be such a change of pace for Wisconsin. That's going to be such a great change of pace for the way they've been playing, man. It's going to take everybody a couple games to get used to it, but Wisconsin, they're going to come in with an up-tempo spread attack. You know, you got third-year running back Braylon Allen, who is a stud. And the Badgers are going to keep running the ball, I'm sure, with him leading the way. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a jolt to the system. It's going to be a major jolt to the system to watch Wisconsin run this kind of offense. It's going to be a lot of fun. But you don't want too much new. You don't want too much new in year one. And if there is too much new and they get away from Braylon Allen, they need to keep feeding him, because that is kind of Wisconsin football. Even if you come in and try and run a new system, you need to stay with your program's identity, and Wisconsin needs to run the ball. I think you can hinder your players' confidence if there's too much new in year one. I think I saw that firsthand with my Sooners last year. It was just way too different from what Lincoln Riley was doing. And you need to do that to establish things. But if you want to win and be confident, you need to take it one thing at a time. And if you get players second guessing themselves, especially in a sport like football, that leads to disaster. And there's so many things that they got to read pre and post snap. It's just it's a lot to ask for these 19 to 22-year-olds. So, Tanner Mordecai, the SMU transfer, who I'm very high on. SMU is a program I'm very familiar with. My sisters went to school there. I've always followed the program a little bit because of that. And I work down here in Dallas, not too far away from SMU. So I'm very high on Tanner Mordecai and very familiar with him because he actually, before he went to SMU, he went to OU, where I went. So he's a Sooner, he's a Mustang, now he's going to be a Badger. What a college career he's had. But he's the perfect guy. I mean, he's like a six-year senior. He knows the ins and outs of the spread offense, the air raid offense. This will be the third system he's already in. So I think he's the perfect guy to come in there and kind of lead this team and show them and kind of teach them how to be an up-tempo air raid offense. So excited to see him get the reins in Madison. New scheme, all that. They brought in 4 transfer portal wide receivers, which is a lot. They figure to be a big part of the pass game. The O-line has about 7 or 8 able bodies, and the O-line coach loves to rotate guys in. And he's been there. How good that offensive line unit is will determine how good the offense is going to be. Because it's going to be a lot of, with the spread offense, it is a lot of drop back pass game. You got to pass protect for 3 to 5 seconds to give Mordecai some time to take some deep shots, do all that. So it's going to be very interesting, very interesting. Defensively, longtime defensive coordinator, highly respected Jim Leonard is gone. But Luke Fickell brings in his own defensive coordinator with him from his time in Cincinnati, Mike Tressel, who, as I was saying, Luke Fickell went to Ohio State. That's got to be Jim Tressel's son or something, right? Don't have 100% confirmation on that, but it has to be. So anyways, yeah, Mike Tressel, he was the defensive coordinator at Michigan State from 2007 to 2020. And they're gonna run a 3-3-5 scheme, and the weakness of that scheme is defending the run. And how that plays out in the Big Ten with all the physical run games is yet to be determined. And I do kind of worry about that scheme. TCU, if you will remember, last year ran a 3-3-5 scheme, and it was fine. It kind of got them to the national championship, but, I mean, Georgia could just do whatever they wanted to that defense. And I think Michigan kind of did too, but Michigan just kind of fumbled it up and kind of was self-inflicted wounds. And so yeah, that's a scheme that I think is, I'm not going to say it's gimmicky, but it does kind of worry me a little bit with all the physical running attacks they're going to have to go against. So maybe Wisconsin could be a team you bet totals over this year. I don't know. But they're returning a duo at linebacker that people are really high on. And that could be maybe be the key to their defense. They have 2 stud linebackers that can cover sideline to sideline. Maybe that could fill in some of the holes for the scheme. But Fickell went out and he added some quality pieces from the portal. Nickelback Jason Mater, not sure if I'm saying that right, Mater, has people excited in Madison. And if this defense can stop the rush and the O-line is decent offensively, this is a team I'm going to bet on a lot this year. So, interesting to see how that plays out. Iowa, moving on. Iowa is 11-1 to win the conference. And what an off season! What a lightning rod this program is. I guess they had some gambling, some players, maybe even some coaches. I didn't really read the full article, but I know that came out a month or two ago that Iowa, there's been some gambling. People have been gambling on some sports like they shouldn't have. And so Kirk Ferentz, man, Coach Ferentz has got his work cut out. It's very simple for Iowa. Score more points. Coach Ferentz has a program that is kind of slept on just because people do love to make fun of their offense and how inept it was last year. But from the standpoint of they put good players in the NFL, they do win consistently, eight games, 9 games. But I mean, they are laughing stock offensively, and rightfully so. It's ridiculous, kind of some of the stuff they're putting out there on offense. And we're starting to hit a little bit of traffic here in Dallas. Shit. Traffic's pretty nuts right now. Give me one sec. But yeah, getting back to Iowa, the Hawkeyes, I mean, it's all the offense and the lack thereof steals all the headlines. It's quite literally put up or shut up time for offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz to coach his son, who everybody, and he should have been fired last year probably, but everybody wants him out. And they averaged only 250 yards per game last year. Second worst in all of FBS, 126th in the country. The Hawkeyes must score at least 25 points this year. This is a clause in Brian Ferentz's contract. They must score at least 25 points this year, or his contract will be terminated at the end of the year. So that's how serious and how big of a problem this offense has been for this program. I mean, I've never seen that, and it's public news. Everybody knows about it, too. So what a year for Brian Ferentz. He's really going to have to find his inner pirate this year. I mean, you can't make that up. They get a quarterback, Cade McNamara, to transfer in from Michigan, and he led the Wolverines to a Big Ten title in 21. Played off and on, mainly as a backup last year to J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. And so he's got some experience. He's going to come in and, you know, he said this is a chip on your shoulder program. So this offense has a lot to prove, and I'll be intrigued to see how it plays out. Defensively, as inept as the offense has been over the years, the defense has been the rock of this team for a while. They play great defense at Iowa. They ranked second in defensive F+ last year. Butkus award-winning first-round pick Jack Campbell at linebacker. He will be missed. He's gone to the NFL. But this defense, they have a next man up mentality. You know, they lose some nice players to the draft, but replacements are found, you know. Most notably, former 5-star free safety Xavier Nwankpa. Man, I don't know how to say that name. Anyways, it's simple for Iowa. As much as the offense will try to progress, no doubt the defense is no doubt going to be a unit that carries Iowa again. And it's just a matter of can the offense play good enough ball to be complementary of this great defense? And if so, I think Iowa can win this division this year. One of the better stories from last year, and Brett Bielema at Illinois is really building something nice up there in Champaign. I believe that's where the university is located, Champaign, Illinois. But either way, man, Brett Bielema, one of my favorites in the country. I mean, he really got his boys playing with some belief last year. Really like the way he comes out. And he preaches physicality. And he exudes confidence. And it wears off on his players, man. It reminds me a lot of Mike Vrabel on the Titans. Just the way they come out and the confidence, and it spills over the team. They upset Penn State last year at Penn State in an epic back and forth overtime battle, which you guys need to go watch that back. That was just an epic new overtime rule. They just kept going back and forth with 2-point conversion attempts. It went to like 6 or 7 overtimes, from what I remember. Just absolutely insane. One of the biggest upsets of the year last year. Brett Bielema was really building something out there. And they also upset division rival Minnesota, who we'll get to next. They upset them on the road. And so this is a team, they don't mind going out on the road and playing ball. Have a good offensive line, travel. They were easily one of the better pleasant surprises last year. Is it just the start, or did Bielema already show the ceiling of Illinois football? Kind of my question here. Offensively, quarterback Danny DeVito. I don't know if that was his name. DeVito. I forget. I think it was Dan DeVito. Anyways, he's gone. So is stud running back Chase Brown. And I will miss Chase Brown because he used to do these game recaps on Twitter where he would just tweet out what his performance was like. And sometimes he was just brutally honest. The defense did not step up when we needed them. I rushed for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. However, we lost the game, and it was hilarious. And so I'll miss that. Traffic's getting a little nuts right now. I'm going to keep my head on a swivel. But yeah, they have a nice offensive line, like I was saying. Left tackle Julian Pearl, I believe is his name. He's a nice NFL prospect. This offense did rank a pedestrian 69th. Nice. 69th and F+ last year, so that's got to get better. The passing attack can get a little bit more dynamic, and Illinois, the Illini could go up a level, man. They could win this division. They really could. The receiving room has some good experience, and an incoming freshman I want to put on people's radar, Malik Elzy, has a lot of people excited there. So, if they can get that pass game going, like I just said, man, Illinois could really make some noise this year. On defense, last year's defensive coordinator, Ryan Walters, he saw his unit finish 3rd in defensive F+ last year. He left to become Purdue's head coach. So that's going to be a loss. Aaron Henry will assume the defensive coordinator role. He was the secondaries coach last year, and he's got to be really good because he helped develop first cornerback off the board. 5th or 6th pick overall, I forget, the Seahawks. Cornerback Devon Witherspoon, who was my top corner and a lot of people's top corners last year coming out of the draft. So, got to be excited about him, even though it sucks to lose a defensive coordinator. It looks like Brett Bielema has the gift of hiring really good assistants, and that's one of the major parts about being a head coach. Um, this defense, they even led the country in scoring defense last year. I didn't realize that. 12.8 points per game, I believe, was the number. So that's awesome. You know, I do think the defensive numbers in this division tend to be a little bit inflated with some of the offenses stuck in the 1990s. But Illinois, man, they got some dogs up front that are going to be heard from. I do think the secondary, having to replace two guys, could be a challenge. So we'll have to see about it. Making my exit to my work now. We're getting pretty close. They got a freshman coming in, or not a freshman. He was a freshman All-American, Gabe Jacka, linebacker, named to watch. And this linebacking unit as a whole will be strong. And so Illinois is a team I'm high on. I really am. I could see them winning this division. Like 33-1 to win the Big Ten. It might seem like, oh, there's no way they're going to win. But if you bet that thinking, hey, they can win this division and play in the Big Ten title game, then you have a 33-1 ticket in a single game to win. Then you can easily hedge off and bet Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, whoever they're going to play, and make some money that way. So that's something I'm going to think about because I do like Illinois a lot. Like I said, they upset Minnesota on the road, and let's move on to PJ Fleck, Minnesota Golden Gophers. They're also 33-1 to win this conference this year. And PJ Fleck, he's about as cringe as it gets, man. With his row the boat slogan, his suit, and allegedly there's all kinds of life motto stuff hung up around the facility. That's really he's just kind of cringy, I think. Shout out to Jack Knack on Unnecessary Roughness. I heard this on their show last week. He said one of the mottos was, if you're juiceless, you're useless. And if you're juiceful, you're useful. I kind of like that one, not going to lie. But you got that, along with losing their quarterback, Tanner Morgan, the Gophers' leading rusher, running back, Mohamed Ibrahim, the all-time leading rusher in program history. He's gone to the draft. And I just can't get super fired up about Minnesota. The offense ranked 44th in F+ last year. Is Fleck, is he willing to get more creative? You know, this is a classic old school Big Ten team, smash mouth football, and they think that works in 2023, and I just don't think that really works unless you can recruit like an Alabama or Georgia or Michigan, and Minnesota just can't. So if they don't open up their offense, that's going to limit their ceiling a lot. And it may work against certain teams like Wisconsin, they're 3-3-5, that could work. But you just put a ceiling on your team when you play like that. And maybe this talented bunch of pass catchers they have can get Fleck to open up his offense more. The All-American tight end, Brevin Spann-Ford, he's back. And they added some portal wide receivers a lot of people are high on. So Minnesota, it's not like they're not trying. They're trying too hard, I think, with all these motto catchphrases hung out all throughout the facility. The defense will have to come up with some replacements that were key to their. They ranked 7th in defensive F+ last year, but they are losing a lot of production. You know, the secondary's losing a lot of key pieces to the NFL, and major question marks on this side of the ball. Safety, Tyler Nubin, He's the guy a lot of those around the program are high on. Um, Another question mark is just the pass rush. They haven't had much of a pass rush over the years. Don't know the last time I remember an edge presence or anybody up front for Minnesota really that was that impactful. It's been pedestrian over the years, and I'm just not sure there's enough playmakers up front. You know, I'm just not that high on Minnesota this year, and that's kind of my gist of it. Let me pause right there. I'm getting into work, and then we'll hit Purdue and Northwestern in just 1 second. Okay, we're gonna finish up Purdue now and Northwestern. We got both of these schools are 100-1 to win their conference. And as I mentioned with Illinois earlier, talking about Purdue here, they bring in Ryan Walters after Jeff Braun jettisoned for Louisville this offseason. And this is a program, they were in the Big Ten title game last year, and now they're 100-1 to win this league. I know there's a lot of change and newness going on, but I do put $1 on that just for fun, just in the hopes they make the Big Ten title. I don't know. Offensively, they lose longtime signal caller Aiden O'Connell. He's finally gone. And the Boilermakers, they did good to replace him with Hudson Card from Texas. And now that Hudson Card isn't a Longhorn, I can talk about him honestly. He's the guy that I think he's a pretty decent quarterback. And he was at Texas too. I'd like to give him shit, but it's interesting. They bring in former Texas Tech legend Graham Harrell, and you get some of these Big 12 minds to join the league. You see it in the SEC all of a sudden. It's an offensive league, and it has been for years now because they brought in a lot of Art Briles disciples. It's just Big 12 offenses started to permeate throughout that league, and you saw all of a sudden, oh, it wasn't bad defense, it's just great offense. When for the longest time, for the Big 12, the narrative was the inverse. It was, oh, these defenses have no idea, so soft. But you just see it, and I have that perspective being an Oklahoma fan more than anybody. You just see good defense does not stop good offense anymore in football. It's just the playmakers, the spread out concepts. It's just very hard to defend, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. I do kind of think that's why we're going to see in college football a running clock after first downs now. The clock won't stop after a first down to reset the chain, adopting the NFL style. And I do think that's good because I love offense and I love to see big shootouts and everything, but you get the running clock now. Games just naturally are going to go faster and there won't be as many possessions. So as that pertains to Purdue, I like Graham Harrell. I think it's a great hire. And they were an up-tempo spread team last year under Jeff Brom and Aiden O'Connell, so shouldn't be too big of a difference to adapt to this new system. I just don't know if there's enough playmakers. They got 3 starters back on the O-line, but I do think with Graham Harrell, Hudson Card's been in Sarkisian's system. I think they can come out and have some success. Now, defensively, kind of like I mentioned with Illinois, they led the nation in scoring defense, and they're bringing in that Walters to be their head coach. And so he's bringing in his 3-4 system. Linebacking recruiting is going to be of the utmost importance in this scheme. They got to have a lot of bodies out there. Keep an eye out for edge players like Jenkins and Caraway to have some big moments, especially Jenkins, a guy a lot of people are high on. Secondary is going to return both starting safety and Stanford transfer that they're hopeful can be a starting cornerback for them. So all is not lost with Jeff Brom. I actually think they could be pretty interesting this year. 100-1 to win this conference. It's interesting.
Also, at 100-1, Northwestern, last team in the Big Ten. This is really like the Stanford of the Pac-12. I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them, but they've been in the headlines lately. You got to start with the hazing scandal that caught longtime, well-respected coach Pat Fitzgerald, cost him his job just a few weeks ago, and that's something that really took the college football world by storm because it's one of the most respected coaches in the league. I always thought he was a tad overrated. You always get a lot of NFL coaching interviews and stuff. But he would get Northwestern football to play really good. They're in the Big Ten title game a few years ago, a couple years ago. And but yeah, that's crazy. The defensive coordinator, so Fitzgerald's out of there. I don't know what he's doing. And the defensive coordinator, David Braun, is going to step into the head coaching role all of a sudden. The program's only won 4 games in the last 2 seasons. They're just destined to be cellar dwellers in this conference. Just not a lot to be excited about. Offense. I mean, the projected starter on offense, the quarterback, Ben Bryant, he's a Cincinnati transfer. And I'm sorry, he's just a bum. And there's not much to get excited about. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find some positives. They lost their 3 top wide receiver targets. The O-line's also turning over a lot of bodies. I guess tight end is one position group that people think they got some talent there, but how that's going to manifest itself into winning football with all the other question marks, that's beyond me. Defensively, this was a horrendous unit last year. The new head coach, he's a guy with a defensive background, so he's going to want these guys to come in, play as a cohesive unit, and I think they will. I think that's going to be a major focus this fall camp. It's just about, year one, getting guys acclimated, especially the sudden change at head coach. You just want to see Northwestern not be a complete dumpster fire this year, but they are the clear-cut worst team in this conference, in my opinion. I don't know if they would have been with Fitzgerald. They probably still would have been towards the bottom, but that's just a lot to overcome. It's an academic school, too. It's hard to get a lot of good recruits in there. Shout out White Sox Steve, fellow Northwestern alum. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. That's Big Ten West. A lot of fun MLB trade deadline talk. Try and get some TikToks put out and stuff. But yeah, tell a friend. Go find your inner pirate this week. Let's go.